The day I broke up with my childhood sweetheart. I picked up an adorable guy. The adorable guy was delicate and soft, and called me sister in a teary-eyed voice. I had a moment of weakness and brought him home. I always thought the puppy was harmless, but at most, it was clingy. Until childhood sweetheart came to my door begging to get back together. Adorable guy cold face will be beaten to death. Between the eyebrows is I cannot read the ruthlessness. What makes you think I will return her to you? When he saw me, he immediately stopped and whimpered over. Sis. He started it. I huffed. You still act? Later, I realized that he was the Lord of Rosemont City who was known for his ruthlessness and shades. Roses weave romantic dreams. Chase to see roses romantic meaning endless. The romance never ends. So be sure to like, comment, retweet, follow, and turn on the little bell to embrace the beautiful drama on time. Bryce Parker's birthday and my academic seminar collided. After the conference, I skipped the dinner and took a plane back to the city without stopping. The moment before I pushed open the door of my compartment, I was still thinking about how to appease Bryce Parker. I wondered if he'd like the gift ID brought him. However, the hurtful words just crashed into my ears so unexpectedly. In the face of his brother's teasing, Bryce Parker let out a TSK and spoke with disinterest. Lost? I can't wait for Lila Lynn to get out of my way. I can't stand the sight of her now. After a moment of joking, he tightened his arms around the girl in his arms. Don't call her your sister-in-law. Your sister-in-law is in my arms now. If you keep yelling, she'll get jealous and I'll have to coax her when I get back tonight, he said. The girl glared at him as if she was angry, and shyly buried her head in his arms. You guys give me some ideas. How can I get out of this marriage? And still not let that old man in my house get angry? After he said this, the large box was quiet for a split second. Someone weakly spoke. Xiao Jie. Do you really have no feelings at all for your sister-in-law? Bryce Parker spoke diffidently, his voice the usual droning one. Of course. If it wasn't for my old man pressuring me with the company's shares, I wouldn't have gotten engaged to her 3 years ago. I can't tell you how I felt when I heard those words. I just felt choked. My heart was aching. I didn't feel particularly bad. After all, I had never been favored by Bryce Parker. Against the crowd's surprised eyes, I pushed open the door of the box. The lively box instantly quieted down. There were a few more subtle points in the air. A few mutual friends were blushing heartily and their eyes were averted. Gardenia drop. When did you come? I smiled. A while ago. He laughed a few times, his face more than a little embarrassed. Bryce Parker, on the other hand, looked as normal as ever, raising his eyebrows at me with his new and innocent love in his arms, not caring in the least whether I had heard those words or not. Bryce Parker had never cared about my feelings in front of or behind him. I walked straight toward him and handed him his birthday present. Happy birthday. Bryce Parker didn't take it, and reached over and tapped the watch on his wrist. It's past 12 o'clock. At the end, he added very nastily. And by the way, this is a gift I really don't like. He casually gave the gift I had brought to the wine waiter next to him. It's yours. The atmosphere became more and more gloomy. The waiter looked at me with a scowl on his face. Someone tried to intervene, but Bryce Parker gave him a sidelong glance. If you don't like it, I'll give you another one. Bryce Parker. Let's break up. I'll talk to my family about the break-off engagement. From now on, you're free. Bryce Parker's smile lagged and his face suddenly sank. Lila Lynn. What did you say? I repeated word for word. Let's break up. He crushed the cigarette in his hand fiercely. I'm glad to hear it. When I left, someone tried to stop me. Sister Gardenia drop. Xiao Jie was just joking. Bryce Parker interrupted him, stood up and kicked the table fiercely. Wine bottles and glasses fell to the ground. Doesn't she want to go? Let her go. When I got out of the box, I didn't rush home, but went into the house bar instead. I poured down one glass after another of the highly concentrated specialty drinks. Memories tumbled through my mind. 24 years of childhood companion. And Bryce Parker and I had ended up in this embarrassing situation. I was also embarrassed by my relationship over the past 10 years. Miss, you can't drink anymore. The soft, white waitress reached out to block my glass. I half squinted, my face a little displeased. If you drink too much, you'll wake up tomorrow morning with an upset stomach. He advises warmly. His wet, bright eyes clear. I don't accept his kindness. I don't like to be nosy. He snapped, withdrawing his hand. Sorry. After leaving for a while, he brought me a dessert and fruits. Let's eat, he said. After a 5-hour seminar, I had to rush to catch a plane. My stomach is really empty. Why? He smiled shyly, his voice soft and gentle. Because my sister is good-looking. He scratched his head. He scratched his head and added with some restraint. It's not free. You need to pay for it. Thank you. When I left the bar, I met the waiter again. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, carrying a duffel bag and sweeping bicycles on the side of the road. When he saw me stumbling, he rushed over to help me. Sister. He stared at me, his little face scrunched up in a ball. His face a little worried. I have to say, this face is really good-looking. Pupils are light-colored. Eyelashes are rooted. Features are delicate. Skin is so tender that you can pinch out water. And the ebony eyes look like a puppy's. Looking at. I moment of weakness. Will drive? Adult? He was stunned for a moment. White face scarlet. Get a driver's license for a year. Adult. I don't remember how it started. But when it ended, I couldn't lift my fingers. I clutched the sheets and whimpered. This guy looks like an adorable guy. But in real life, he's more of a wolf than a wolf dog. Out of nowhere, I realized those doggy eyes were frighteningly bright. The ebony eyes were swirling with emotions I couldn't understand. Before I could look deeper, my eyes were covered. Be good. Soon. Liar. Opening my eyes the next day, my mind went blank for a few minutes. How do I say this so I don't seem like such a slag? So, are you short of money? Puppy gripped the sheets, the tails of his eyes drooping, and spoke in a jarred voice, sounding as if he'd suffered a great deal of aggravation. This is my first time. The way he tossed me around last night didn't seem like a first time. Even though I don't have much money and am still just a college student, I haven't wheeled and dealt to the point of selling myself out. I tried to turn my sister down last night, but she wouldn't let me go. It's my fault. I didn't push my sister away in the first place. As he said that, he choked up, his nasal voice getting heavier and heavier, his eyes heavy with moisture. I scrambled to explain, looking at him at a loss for words. That's not what I meant. I tried to find tissues, but found the tissue box swept off the floor, mingling with the scattered clothes. He took a deep breath and lifted his eyes to look at me, a fine watery light hidden in his eyes. Sister, although I've never been in love, I also know that feelings have to be you love me. If you really don't want to be responsible, I won't force you. Looking at him who was about to shatter, I feel like an animal. After coaxing him gently for a while, Hugo Xavier was able to stop his tears. Due to the intense battle last night, Hugo Xavier's original clothes could no longer be worn. I went through the men's clothes we had at home. The moment Hugo Xavier received his hand, a thin line of coldness slipped through his eyes, which soon turned into a mist. Sister, am I doing the other man? No. I've broken up. Hugo Xavier stopped his tears and broke into laughter. That man has no vision. Such a good sister doesn't know how to cherish. After sending Hugo Xavier back to the university town, I drove home and made it clear that I wanted to break off my engagement with Bryce Parker. My mom hugged me with red eyes. Nui, you've been wronged. Although Grandpa Parker was full of reluctance, he still loosened his mouth. Gardenia Fall. It is my Parker family is not fortunate to get you this granddaughter-in-law. Bryce Parker said nothing with a sullen face. When I left the Parker's house, Bryce Parker called out to me, his dark eyes dark. Lila Lynn. You have to think carefully. If you push through this marriage, we will be done for good. No matter how much you beg me in the future, I won't get back together with you. At this moment, I felt that he was extremely contradictory and funny. He was the one who was annoyed with me. And now he is the one who wants to stay. I asked softly. Bryce Parker, isn't this what you've been waiting for? I'm just giving you what you want. Bryce Parker lowered his eyes, as if muttering, yes. This marriage was not to my liking. And you were just forced on me by Grandpa. The sourness that overflowed from the bottom of her heart slowly spread all over her body. 3 years ago, when the Park family was in trouble, I took the initiative to propose a marriage in order to help the Park family solve their financial problems as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, my intention and goodwill was superfluous to Bryce Parker as well as a constraint. If I had known that, I should have let go of helping others and respected their destiny. After withdrawing from the marriage, I felt more relieved and relieved. After 3 years of engagement, Bryce Parker's inconsistency and cold words should have made me realize that this long-lasting love from my youth had long since rotted away. Now I'm just plucking out the rotting flesh and rejuvenating the festering area. After retiring from my marriage, I ordered myself a spicy barbecue with spicy cuisine. Pushing open the door, Hugo Xavier stood in the doorway with a large lunch bag. When he saw me staring, he raised the bag in his hand and explained, Sister, I'm an errand boy on the side, and this is my last order of the day. I didn't know how to answer, and casually said, Have you eaten yet? Hugo Xavier's ears flushed red and he smiled a bit coyly. Not yet. Hugo Xavier smiled a bit coyly. Not yet. Then let's join us. It's just that I can't finish what I ordered alone. Hugo Xavier fiddled with the food while I dug out 2 bottles of beer from the fridge. Can you drink? I can, sister. I'm just young looking. As I look at him, an unfortunate image from last night comes to mind. Hugo Xavier may be young, but he's got an old-fashioned knack for rubbing people the wrong way. The TV in the living room was playing a cheesy idol drama. The heroine cries when she finds out that her boyfriend is cheating on her. I felt bad that she cried like that for her man. She doesn't look good when she cries. She'll meet a better one later, he said. Hugo Xavier puts a piece of grilled fish with the spines picked out into my bowl. Sister, you'll meet someone better later. The heat in his eyes was so hot that it made my heart flutter. At night, Hugo Xavier still stayed at my house. In the morning, I woke up with a familiar soreness. I slipped on my slippers and rubbed my head as I headed for the noisy kitchen. Hugo Xavier turned to me with a spoon in his hand. Wake up, sis. I made you honey pear soup for breakfast. I tried to open my mouth to say something but realized my voice was hoarse and the culprit was still standing in front of me with a smile on his face. Hugo Xavier pushed my waist and sent me all the way back to the bathroom. Sister, you wash up first, said Hugo Xavier, with an attentive face, filling water and squeezing toothpaste for me, with his hand gently kneading the sore soft flesh around his waist. Hugo Xavier smiled in a flattering and pleasing manner. Sister, don't be angry. I will be good and gentle next time. I blushed in my old face and kicked him out of the bathroom. After breakfast, Hugo Xavier squirmed and looked at me. Sister, can I come to your house to look for you later? Those 2 bright eyes were like dog eyes, looking at me expectantly. He put up 2 fingers on top of his head. I am really good. I can cook. I can do housework. And I can keep you warm. Looking at his good and soft appearance, I was overwhelmed by the beauty and told the code of the electronic lock of the door. After cleaning up the dishes, Hugo Xavier grunted and threw all the men's products into the trash can. Sister, it's better to throw these garbage away as soon as possible. They are an eyesore and take up a lot of space in the house. I let him be. These things are meant to be cleared out. So I was naturally happy to have someone to do it for me. After that day, Hugo Xavier moved like a snail, bringing some of his things with him every time he came and pretending to leave them behind. When he was caught, he pouted and said pitifully, Sister, I can't use disposables every time I come. And my stuff doesn't take up much space. The pretty doggy eyes flickered and flashed with accusations written all over them. That made me sound like a scummy girl who throws things away when she's done using them. I sheepishly offered to make amends. I took you to the mall to get something new. Hugo Xavier cupped my face and barfed me a kiss on the lips. Thank you, sis. Sis is the best. Hugo Xavier was the first time I realized the joy of dressing up people. In the past, when I bought things for Bryce Parker, he always hated it. And the gifts I brought him were either left to collect dust or given away. Hugo Xavier, wearing his new clothes, was happily twirling around in front of me. Sister has a good eye. I like all the clothes you picked out. Irrespective of gender. Anyone can provide simple emotional value if they want to. I wanted to grab his face. Hugo Xavier took the initiative to bend down and bring his face over. I'm glad you like it. Hugo Xavier embraced me in his arms. The arms around his waist tightening. Sister. I like it and am happy. After picking out the clothes, I took Hugo Xavier to pick out the accessories. Hugo Xavier ignored the introduction of the salesgirl and pointed at the couple's ring in the glass counter. Sister. I want to wear this with you. Couple's ring. Are Hugo Xavier and I a couple now? Hugo Xavier could see my hesitation. If you don't like it, forget it. The corners of his mouth barely rose to hide the loss on his face. His voice was soft and gentle, like a puppy with its tail hanging down. He could always soften people's hearts. Let's try it. Hugo Xavier's eyes brightened abruptly. The action of putting on the ring was interrupted by a male voice. And when I looked at the voice, I saw Bryce Parker standing not far away with a sullen face. The diffidence under his eyes turned into a shade. And beside him stood a pretty and attractive female companion. Bryce Parker felt that the image in front of him was an eyesore. Jealousy and anger erupted and drowned him in an instant. Since he was a child, he had gotten used to the idea that Lila Lynn's heart and eyes were all about her. Those beautiful, serene eyes were now filled with someone else. Inexplicably, Bryce Parker remembered his own state in the past month. After Lila Lynn broke off engagement with himself, he would always be irritated by small things for no reason. Affected by his mood, the secretary became cautious and trembling. Xiao Su organized a bachelor party for him in order to celebrate him regaining his freedom, calling over all the famous beauties in the circle. Xiao Jie. From today onwards you can chase whichever girl you want. You no longer need to avoid Lila Lynn and your old man. Brothers. Come on. Let's raise a glass to singleness. Bryce Parker held his cigarette. The high concentration of whiskey made his head rise. Uncontrollably, he compared these girls to Lila Lynn. Eyes not as big as Lila Lynn's. Not as tall as Lila Lynn. Not as graceful as Lila Lynn. In fact, when I think about it, Lila Lynn is much better than the fawning and pleasing girls. Although she came from a good family, Lila Lynn has been a hard worker since she was a child. She worked hard to get into the best schools and worked her way up to a PhD, becoming an honorary professor at Rosemont City University at the age of 27. But 3 years ago, no one asked him what he wanted. Everyone assumed he liked Lila Lynn too, and arranged an engagement for him. He hated the feeling of being disrespected and tried to give Lila Lynn a hard time after the engagement. A few days ago, the new acquaintance of the female companion made a fuss to accompany his shopping. If not agreed to tearful pleas, Bryce Parker was annoyed to no end. In a trance, he remembered Lila Lynn seems to have never asked himself, and never in front of their own emotions. However, he seems to have lost the very good and understanding Lila Lynn. Lila Lynn. Bryce Parker's voice is raspy and his eyes look up at me with scarlet. Hugo Xavier clasps my hand. Fingers intertwined. What's your relationship with him? Bryce Parker cross-examines me. His eyes a treacherous obscurity. Isn't it obvious what my relationship with my sister is? Hugo Xavier shook my hand, revealing the couple's ring between my fingers. I didn't ask you. After disliking Hugo Xavier, Bryce Parker's eyes fell straight onto me. Sis. He's so mean. Hugo Xavier cooed in my ear. I graciously met Bryce Parker's eyes. Bryce Parker. We have already broken off engagement. It's none of your business what kind of relationship I have with him. Lila Lynn. Are you trying to provoke me? Bryce Parker. You know, I won't do anything that boring. I didn't want to get too entangled with him. I turned my head to look at the counter attendant. Well, take this ring. Pay for it. The lady nodded her head, carefully watching my expression and glancing at Bryce Parker, whose face was shadowy. Bryce Parker took me by the wrist the moment I brushed past him. Lila Lynn. What if I said I regretted it? Hugo Xavier's aura changed abruptly, his cold, sharp gaze falling on my pulled wrist. I broke away from my restraints and responded frankly to Bryce Parker. Whether you regret it or not is your business. I don't regret it at all. Hugo Xavier clutched my wrists and stepped in front of me, blocking Bryce Parker's gaze. Sister. Let's go home. Hugo Xavier was extra crazy this night. His eyes were dark, like he was a completely different person. Sister. Don't like him. Will you like me? After he asked. He didn't chase after me for an answer. Instead he rubbed up against me. Sister. You are mine. You can only be mine. The voice was paranoid and low. I climbed onto Hugo Xavier's shoulders, my consciousness collapsing on the gradually growing force. After our encounter with Bryce Parker at the mall, Hugo Xavier became more and more attached to me. He and I were gradually becoming semi-cohabitants. When I went home to have dinner with my parents on the weekend, my father talked about the changes in the business community. I don't know how the Parker family offended the Min family, and their key support programs have been hitting a lot of walls lately. And Bryce Parker has been having a hard time lately, he said. There was a bit of gloating in his tone. Mom was afraid that I would think too much and kicked Dad severely. Dad looked aggrieved, covered his calf and didn't dare to say anything, playing eye conversation with Mom. I put down my dishes. Dad. Mom. I've put down Bryce Parker. You don't have to do this. Daughter. It's a good thing. What's old is new again. Mom threw a chopstick at Dad's head and raised her voice. Can you talk? I couldn't hold back my laughter, so I let out a giggle. No matter how old I get, my mom and Dad's love will always be my strength. After dinner, Mom dragged me to my room to whisper. Nui Nui. Tell Mom honestly. Do you have a boyfriend? Before I could say anything, Mom lifted my collar. Underneath my collar was a fresh love bite, planted by Hugo Xavier just before I left home. Tell Mom what kind of boy he is. I blushed, a little embarrassed. Just tall and handsome. Does he treat you well? He's good. The kind you hold close to your heart. Then you have to be good to him. Don't give up on him. Inside the office of the president of Xavier Group, Special Assistant Joe holds an iPad and reports to Min Xian. Mr. Min, the things you have explained have been done, and the market value of Park's company has continued to go down in the past few days. Hearing this news, Min Xian hooked his lips happily. Seeing Min Xian in a rare good mood, Special Assistant Joe bravely reminded his own boss. Mr. Min, there are several projects in the company waiting for you to have a meeting to finalize them. He accompanied the smile and carefully watched Min Xian's expression. Ever since his boss transformed into a poor college student to chase after his boss wife, his workload had increased geometrically. He was afraid that he would be put in the ICU by his work before he could drink his boss' wedding wine. Okay. My sister has gone back to accompany my mother-in-law. I will work overtime to get rid of the backlog of work. Joe's special assistant was ordered to rush to hold 2 big stacks of documents. Against Min Xian's cold gaze, Joe's special assistant pretended to calmly push the frame. Mr. Min, you know that our company is relatively large and has more business. Seeing that Min Xian's color improved, he immediately turned around and went out to make coffee. Who knows? Right. Joe's assistant let the home baker prepare more toast bread and blueberry sauce. I took it over last time. Gardenia Fall said it was delicious, but also specifically asked me the brand. Assistant Joe could only nod respectfully. Min Xian wanted to say something else, but Assistant Joe interrupted his rambling by resisting the pressure. As a qualified assistant, He felt it was necessary for him to remind his own boss. It's time for you to work, Mr. Min. Otherwise, with the current workload, you'll probably have to stay up all night tonight. When I returned to my apartment the next day, Hugo Xavier was in bed with the curtains drawn tightly. The refrigerator was stuffed with my favorite toast, and there were a few bottles of blueberry sauce on the island counter. I slipped into my slippers and tiptoed back to my room. Morning light shone through the heavy curtains, dappling Hugo Xavier's knife-edge face. What a favorite of the creator. I half squatted beside the bed, looking at the tip of my heart tingling, my hand uncontrollably reaching over. Sister, if you keep looking like that, I can't guarantee what he'll do. The voice was raspy and low, and one's ears burned to hear it. I haven't asked you yet. Were you a thief last night? Hugo Xavier grabbed my hand and put it to his lips for a kiss. Stayed up late and worked overtime to make dowry. Hot breath sprayed on the back of my hand, and a tingling sensation spread all the way to the tip of my heart. Sister, will you sleep with me? Hugo Xavier's eyes were closed as he pouted. Hugo Xavier took me into his arms as soon as I slipped into bed. It was noon when I woke up again. Hugo Xavier stroked the hair at my temples. Sister, let's go out to eat. His long knuckles pressed against my lips. No refusals. And I'm buying. I worked until 6 a.m. last night and I made a lot of money. Maybe he really made a lot of money. Hugo Xavier chose a very expensive Japanese restaurant and asked for a private room. Sis, my classmates said this place tastes good. Let's try it. I took the water Hugo Xavier handed me. Okay. After the meal, I went to check out under the pretense of going to the restroom, and accidentally bumped into Bryce Parker and his secretary. Mr. Parker, I've asked around and this is Mr. Min's favorite restaurant. But squatting people here is ultimately too inefficient. Isn't there nothing we can do? Mr. Min doesn't want to see me or accept my apologies, even though I don't know where I've offended him. Bryce Parker smiled bitterly and rubbed his brow with a tired and gray face. Gardenia drop? He looked towards me and then at the box behind me. His face suddenly hardened. Who did you come with? Bryce Parker had just finished his question when Hugo Xavier pushed open the compartment door and came out. He came over and held my hand, laughing lightly. I knew my sister would feel sorry for me, so she secretly came out to pay for the bill. Bryce Parker snorted and looked at Hugo Xavier with a mocking face. His gaze was undisguised contempt. You can't even afford to pay for a meal. Layla Lin, why did you find this kind of man? His unprovoked superiority complex made me laugh. You can afford it. But I haven't seen you buy me a few meals. Bryce Parker stuttered. Gardenia. Just because I can't afford it now doesn't mean I won't be able to afford it later. As long as he's willing, I can treat him to a lifetime of meals. Hugo Xavier, with a smile in his eyes, hurriedly answered, fearing that I would regret it. Sister, I am willing. Very willing. Bryce Parker lowered his eyebrows. His face became more and more ugly. After settling the bill, Hugo Xavier went to the box and carried my bag happily. When he passed by Bryce Parker, he smiled and said, Mr. Parker's waiting for someone? But with your attitude, you probably won't be able to wait for anyone in your life. You should have the attitude of a beggar. Bryce Parker was enraged. What do you know? You can't even afford to buy a meal. If there is no gardenia fall with you, you are afraid that you can't get into this kind of high-end place in your whole life. Hugo Xavier nodded his head smilingly. Yes. I am very happy. I have my sister to spoil me. After choking Bryce Parker, Hugo Xavier took me to the mall in the name of a date and insisted on buying me a new dress. Sister, of course you have to spend money on your wife when you earn it. I laughed and teased him. Who is your wife? Hugo Xavier grunted. Not yet. But sooner or later. He took me to choose a cheongsam with embroidery. The fabric of the cheongsam was so delicate and comfortable that it showed off my curvaceous figure. And the white and green color scheme made my temperament more and more gentle and attractive. Hugo Xavier's gaze on me became hotter and hotter. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, Like a little dog that protects its food. Sister. You look so good. I really want to hide you from others. I blushed and pushed him. You're almost done. There are people watching. Sister. Do you mean I can do whatever I want if no one is watching? Don't be a hooligan in broad daylight. After shopping for clothes, Hugo Xavier yelled at me to pick out a pair of shoes. I couldn't resist him. So he dragged me into the store. Hugo Xavier half squatted in front of me and carefully held my feet to help me change shoes. Halfway through the change, I happened to run into Mint's executives coming downstairs to inspect the mall. And the young man at the head of the group wore a pair of rimless glasses and looked rather speechless. The people following behind him were also of different colors, stopping in front of the stores in unison. The store manager and the counter girl stood at the door with trepidation, not daring to breathe. Being stared at by a group of people in suits made my heart grow fuzzy. Hugo Xavier helped me change my shoes with a normal face and pushed me in front of the mirror. Sister just looks good. The group of people outside the door. Their faces changed and changed, looking at me with something more indefinable. I stiffly whispered to Hugo Xavier. It's so embarrassing. Let's get out of here. Hugo Xavier craned his head to look at the crowd. The young man at the head of the crowd pushed up his frames. Let's go. It's rude to crowd around a young couple on a date. A few days later, I met a drunken Bryce Parker in front of my neighborhood. I had just returned from a walk and was holding Hugo Xavier's arm. Bryce Parker's eyes were red and his voice trembled as he called out to me. Gardenia. I really regret it. He stared at me and said to himself. The difficulties I've encountered these days have made me realize that if it weren't for your family's help 3 years ago, I would have been begging for help like a dog today. In the past, if I encountered problems at work, you would definitely call me first to comfort me. If I had to work all night, you would make soup for me the next day. But I don't know how to cherish it. And I still think you are annoying. Gardenia drop. Do you think I am cheap? To tell you the truth, I've never seen such a wretched Bryce Parker. He looked at me cautiously with red eyes, his eyes glittering with faint hope. But there's no such thing as a pill for regret. Bryce Parker. You're drunk. Why don't you call your secretary and have him pick you up? Will you do it for me? I'm sorry. On the day of the break-off engagement, I've already blacked out all the contact information related to you. I have no relationship with you for a long time. The color of Bryce Parker's face faded in an instant. Hugo Xavier pulled me behind him and said in a deep voice. Young Master Parker, please go back. I will report you for harassment if you pester me next time. Back home. Hugo Xavier pestered me one after another. Hugo Xavier. Do you have no confidence in yourself? Or in me? I have no confidence in myself. And that green tea guy will come to my door to act. Hearing his resigned answer, I couldn't help but feel pained. I took his hand, took a picture of his fingers together, and sent it to my friends for an official announcement. There you go. Hugo Xavier pounced on me with an "Owie." I thought that after the last incident, Bryce Parker would completely let go and stop pestering me. That day, I finished my lecture early and came home from work. When I parked my car in the garage, I saw Hugo Xavier and Bryce Parker wrestling with each other. Hugo Xavier was coldly beating the man to death, with a ruthlessness I had never seen before. What makes you think I'll give her back to you? Bryce Parker retorted. She was mine, and I was the one she liked. But now, I'm the one in her heart. And you're just jealous because you saw that circle. Right? Bryce Parker seemed to have been poked to the sore spot, and hit harder and harder. Bryce Parker. You're so free. Have you taken care of your company's business yet? White boy. Shut up. You don't even have the ability to invite Gardenia Drop for a meal. Who are you to talk about me? The two of them went back and forth. Neither of them would let go of the other. Hugo Xavier struck out. His moves were vicious, and his eyes were cold and gloomy. Such Hugo Xavier makes me feel strange. In front of me, Hugo Xavier always has a soft smile on his face. His eyes are bright. And he calls me sister with an arched eyebrow. I called the security guard to separate them. When he saw me, Hugo Xavier immediately withdrew his hand. whimpered and came over to me. Sister. He was the one who started the trouble. Bryce Parker gasped, pointing to his own bruised and purple face. Gardenia fall. Do you know how heavy he hit? Hugo Xavier panicked. Carefully looked at my color. Sister. His face hurts. My hand still hurts. Who made him shameless? Always thinking about other people's wives. I was so noisy that my brain hurt. All right. Both of you shut up. After checking the CCTV at the police station, it was indeed Bryce Parker who provoked the trouble. The police didn't make things too difficult for us and let us go after we paid for our medical bills. Hugo Xavier was with me the whole time. But he didn't dare to say anything when he saw me with a sullen face. When the car was parked in the garage, Hugo Xavier spoke very softly. Sister. Are you feeling sorry for Bryce Parker? I didn't answer. Nor did I look at him. Sister. Bryce Parker really doesn't deserve to be liked. He didn't value you so much before and spoiled your heart. He's been engaged for 3 years. And his gossip has never ceased. Hugo Xavier. You seem to know my past very well. Of course I want to know more about my sister. Hugo Xavier. The way you hit people today makes me feel strange. I always feel that you are hiding something from me. Sister. Hugo Xavier. If you want to go on with me, I advise you to think carefully before you speak. Sister. Let's talk about this at home. I'm afraid I can't come home today. Okay. Back home. Hugo Xavier knelt down. Sister. My last name is not actually Hua. It's Min. Min? I froze. Not sure. Hugo Xavier could see what I was thinking. It's the Min you're thinking of. The head of the Min family. The one known for his ruthlessness in Rosemont City. The man who is in charge of one side of the family and owns billions of dollars pestered me every day and called me sister. For a moment, I didn't know whether to be angry at this deception or touched by the fact that the man at the top had bent the knee. Sister. I really didn't mean to deceive you. I've liked you for a long time. And I haven't been able to find a chance. So that's why I thought of playing poor. Min Xian rambled about the history of his crush. He said that the first time he met me was at a lecture. Even though the questions were very sharp and tricky, I still had a calm and decent smile on my face. The words were not too fast or too slow. There is humility in self-confidence. People are most charismatic when they do what they like and are good at. In the beginning, Min Xian was attracted by my charisma, and then had the urge to know me. And the more he knew, the more he wanted to know. Unfortunately, I had just gotten engaged to Bryce Parker at that time. While cautioning himself not to cross the line, Min Envy paid uncontrollable attention to me. Speaking of which, he said indignantly through clenched teeth, that asshole Bryce Parker doesn't deserve your affection at all. He happened to be in the next box the day we had a complete standoff with Bryce Parker. He knew that I would come back to celebrate Bryce Parker's birthday and stayed in the box for a while after the party. Min Xian watched me walk out of the box in a daze, tears hanging on my face, and suddenly guessed the reason. When he saw me pouring drinks on the bar alone, he wanted to talk to me, but realized he couldn't find the right reason or identity. Later, he called the bar manager and asked for a waiter's uniform. When he finished speaking, Min Xian carefully grabbed the corner of my coat. Sister. I have explained everything I need to explain. After hearing this, my heart was in great turmoil. Min Xian. You go back first. I need time to digest this. Min Xian panicked. Sister. Can you not kick me out? I can sleep in the living room. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Min Xian backed down. Sister. Then how long do you need to digest? I don't know. Maybe a day. Maybe a week. Maybe a month. After that day, Min Envy no longer appeared in front of me. He wasn't in front of me, but he was with me all the time. Toast and fresh fruits and vegetables piled up at the door. WeChat's regular morning and afternoon goodnight messages. The black Cayenne parked downstairs in the neighborhood. The hot latte sitting on the desk. All of these things make your heart burn. Sister. I lied to you first. I'm willing to wait for you no matter how long it takes. I'm sure I like Min Xian. I like the way he treats me. I like the way he holds me in his heart all the time. I like the way he calls me sister with a sincere face. But it was hard to accept being coveted for 3 years and approached with lies. A week later, Min Xian sent me a message saying that he had to go abroad to discuss cooperation and would be back in about a week. I thought about it and sent him a message back. Be safe. All the best. Min Xian replied in a second. Okay. When he comes back, we will find a time to talk about it. However, accidents are always unplanned. Not yet out of the hospital door. Min Envy called. The tone of voice cannot be hidden anxiety. Sister. Are you not comfortable? The manager of the marketing department said that he just met you at the hospital and said that you were alone at the hospital to see the doctor. I touched my belly and replied in a low voice. Min Xian. I'm pregnant. The wind in early fall rustled the pregnancy test slip in my hand. Before he could reply, I continued. Min Xian. I miss you. When are you coming back? The caller was silent for a few seconds before he replied in a muffled voice. Sister. I'll be right back. Wait for me. Okay? I didn't reject this surprise. I was even a bit happy about it. The reason was simply this was Min Xian and his child. At 3 a.m. Min Xian knocked on the door of my room. He didn't say anything but hugged me tightly. Sister. I can't wait any longer. Let's get married. Min Xian. Don't ever lie to me again. Okay. I promise. Okay. I promise.